Dan the Wheelman here, and my very special guest on this crisp fall day in Stanley Park in Vancouver, British Columbia is this. This is the 2025 Chevrolet Suburban. She's a big gal, that's for sure, but she is also top of the pops in the Suburban lineup. This is the high country version. You've got 24-inch wheels, awesome paint, nice kind of blacked out grille there. I think that looks fantastic as well. A little bit of chrome here and there, but it's pretty stealthy overall. But it's a very, very classy, handsome looking thing. And it comes with some pretty handsome power, courtesy of a standard V8 engine, 10-speed automatic transmission. This one has air ride suspension on it as well, which is nice to have because big wheels like that are going to affect your ride. So it's nice to have a little bit of kind of cushioning when you're dealing with that. So that's pretty cool too. It looks like a lot of fun. I can't wait to drive it. Let's get to it. I know most people in Canada today, my country, that would be wearing a sports-themed hat, would be wearing a Blue Jays hat after they just punched their ticket to the ALCS against the Yankees a couple nights ago, but not me. No, for me, October means one thing and one thing only in the world of sports, and that's the start of the NHL season and the Vancouver Canucks. I've got the vintage Vancouver Canucks hat on here, and that's all there is to it. Anyway, so we're now at the wheel, of course, of the Chevrolet Suburban, and what's first and foremost, what I found really interesting about this is that it is a massive vehicle. It's huge. It's like 1 million feet long. It weighs 1 million pounds, and it's got room for like 18 people in it. But even for the way they've shaped the center stack here and tilted this 17.7-inch infotainment display towards me, because you do have some intrusion into the cabin of the drive shaft and stuff because you need that ground clearance in a big vehicle like this. So the pedal box and footwell here actually isn't huge. The steering wheel isn't massive. It doesn't feel like I'm driving a massive thing. Yes, you sit high, but this isn't the Z71 off-road package, so it's not the highest riding Suburban you can get either. So it doesn't feel quite so massive at the wheel, and that's okay in my opinion. It's more cozy, it's more cosseting, it's kind of nice that way, especially when you consider the rest of the environs in this high country trim. You've got the brown mocha leather in here, which is gorgeous. I love it. You've got open pore wood inserts, heated and cooled front seats, heated rear seats, heated steering wheel, digital rear view mirror. I mentioned the big infotainment display with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and Google built-in, so your native navigation, for example, is Google Maps. There's also Google Assistant. You can log into your Google account and so on. Wireless charging, USB-C and A ports up here if you'd rather use those instead of charging wirelessly or attaching to CarPlay wirelessly. You can do that here. Big tray here for storage, big bin here for storage. It's just such a perfect cockpit for when it comes to like space and the usage of space. The Suburban hasn't really changed shape since, I don't know, 1940 when it first arrived or whatever that was. Actually, I think back then it was more of a car or like a station wagon. Now it's obviously a big SUV, and I think to this day it still remains the longest running nameplate in the world when it comes to cars. I might have that a bit wrong. Maybe it's North America, but I don't think so. I think the Suburban actually is a little bit more than the Corvette, a little bit more than the Mustang, and now that the Beetle's gone, that's not a Challenger anymore. So that's really interesting. So you've got that history there as well. And then you fast forward to the modern era where the Suburban it's the car for movie stars. Near the beginning of Sicario and all those, I think those are mostly Tahoes, but all those black Tahoes are kind of snaking their way through the border between Mexico and the US into Ciudad Juarez and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, the Suburban takes on, and the Tahoe has almost an aura unto itself, kind of like the Mustang does, and that's really cool. Now, you go to high country, that changes a bit. It obviously isn't the livery version of the vehicle. It's not the police version of the vehicle, although I have driven that one too. It had like seating for 9, I think, in it, 3 in the front, 3 in the middle, 3 in the back, and like cloth seats and tiny little wheels. That was pretty cool too. But this is not that. This is the luxury one. This is what you tow your boat or your horse trailer with. It tows almost 8,000 pounds. I've got the Max trailer package on this. Comes as part of the high country package. It gives you a hitch view. It gives you a trailer brake controller, 2-speed transfer case. few other things as well. So it also gives you a digital display that lets you kind of see the load of your trailer, make sure it's balanced properly. That's pretty cool as well. So that's what the high country version is all about. This is top spec of the Suburban. After this, you move into the Escalade, of course, or the Escalade. I guess this would be the Escalade ESV because it's the longer one. So that's what you're looking at here. The Suburban itself, no matter what trim, the first 2 rows, the room is the same as it is in a Tahoe, actually. Once you move to the 3rd row, you get more 3rd row legroom than you do a Tahoe, and you get more storage behind the 3rd row than you do in a Tahoe as well. So that's really where you're seeing the added space kind of come manifest in the Suburban. It is in the cargo area and the 3rd row, and that 3rd row is now properly usable. Like, you can get back there pretty easily. You can go between the seats, or you can go behind the seat back, whatever you want to do. And it's well equipped back there, USB-C ports, cup holders, all that kind of stuff that you've gotten so adults can actually use the 3rd row. Headroom is the same in the 3rd row of the Suburban as it is in the Tahoe, but the legroom has expanded, and that's important. With the longer legroom, of course, allows you to like kind of slouch down a little bit more to give yourself a little more kind of artificial headroom that way. And of course, when we're talking about in-car storage, the cabin storage is one thing. Didn't even mention the dual tier storage I have in the door here. That's pretty cool. What about the cargo area at the back? Well, we talked about how big it is, how it's bigger than the Tahoe, and I'll put the actual capacity on the screen here in just a second. But it's also got a split tailgate. What does that mean? Well, that means you can open the glass independently of the full gate. Why would you want to do that? Well, say you're packing up for a big camping trip. You open the tailgate, load it up, close it. Now you open the glass, load even more stuff on top, close that. That way, once you get to your campsite, you don't have to open the whole tailgate and have everything fall out. Just open the glass, and there you go. And since I've got a digital rearview mirror, that big, tall load that you're just, patting yourself on the back for just loading, well, it doesn't affect your view rearwards either because the camera is outside of all that. Pretty cool stuff and pretty handy. Speaking of the tailgate, you can open it from in here, but don't look down here or over here like where you normally look to open a tailgate. The controls aren't there, they're up here, which is kind of weird. And there's other controls up here that aren't your typical. Usually up here you have your sunroof controls or whatever, but on this one you've got a tailgate and you've got these 2 here, these 2 arrows. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean move the sunroof screen back? No, that's what this button here is for, the one that's marked with the sunroof cover, like we've seen in cars for years and decades. No, these adjust the central storage bin. So to adjust the central storage bin, which is way down here, you got to reach up here. And what they do is they actually slide the whole armrest back to expose more storage down there. And not only more storage, but also an additional storage drawer as well, which is pretty cool. And when you move this back, it also moves into the 2nd row. Makes the cup holders more accessible to 2nd row occupants. Pretty neat once you figure out how to use it. For the most part, I like the tech. The backup cam's pretty good. You've got the digital gauge cluster with all sorts of information on it, depending on how you set it, because it can be tweaked. You've got the big central display with all the apps I mentioned earlier. Only 10 speaker audio though, which is a little strange for something this big when vehicles like the Expedition, for example, are offering more with their B&O, and B&O is a better audio system than Bose is. So you don't have that. They don't want to step too much on the toes, do Chevrolet, of Cadillac with the AKG sound system in the Escalade, with Dolby Atmos and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of where you don't want to. You want to have some differentiation between these 2 vehicles considering they share the same platform and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just a 10-speaker Bose system. It's fine. It's not a bad system. I was just surprised to see the speaker count being as low as it is. And the other thing is the blind spot camera. Great that you have one. When you activate your indicator, a camera on that side pops up if you're going right, camera on that side pops up on here if you're going left. It's great that they offer that. But holy low resolution, Batman. It looks properly kind of old school, like an old Zenith from 1972, which is a little bit strange in my opinion. They could have given you a little more kind of quality. The backup cam is fine, but the blind spot cam is a little bit odd. And since it pops up right here, if you're using your Google Maps, something like that, it blocks it because it takes the whole screen. And where I can really see that being a problem is, say you're on the highway and you're trying to get over to catch your exit, you got to go over 4 lanes of traffic. Well, now when you indicate to change lanes, you can't see where your exit is. Yes, you can look on the gauge cluster and on the heads-up display. They connect with Google Maps, even if you're using CarPlay, and that's pretty cool. But I am a visual person, and if you're like me, you like to see the lines on the map to show you your exit, and you can't do that now. You could close it if you want by pressing an X button on the screen, but you shouldn't have to do that. And GM's not the only one that's guilty of it either. The Jeep Grand Wagoneer does it too, and I think there's a few others. Far better they put it in the gauge cluster, the blind spot camera, like what Hyundai, Genesis, Kia does. It's more intuitive to look there. You don't block it with your steering wheel because you don't turn the wheel that much when you're changing lanes, and it just works better. It's good tech. I think it's valuable tech. Just needs to be implemented correctly. In addition to all that cool luxurious stuff, the High Country comes standard with the 6.2 liter V8 that the Suburban Tahoe gets. Base models of the Suburban and Tahoe get a 5.3 liter V8. Standard on this one is the 6.2, 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. You can opt for the diesel engine, a 3-liter 6-cylinder diesel if you want. Less horsepower, but more torque, 495 pound-feet of torque, and that's the one that you're going to want if you're really going to be towing heavy loads a lot, is the diesel. But I've got the V8 and I think it's great. By the way, the base model 5.3 makes less than 400 horsepower, less than 400 pound-feet of torque. So, but this V8 is so smooth. It gives you a little bit of a growl when you accelerate, just to let you know it's there, but it's not too in your face. But it's just a really smooth revving engine. The red line is at like 5,800 RPM or something, so you don't need to rev it that crazy. It's got 10-speed automatic transmission, so nice close ratios, which is great. You can even shift the gears by yourself, these paddles, if you like. That's kind of cool. Probably something you'd use more in a more sporty version of the Suburban, like the RST or the Z71, for example. But still, nice to have here. Anyway, but it's just, you just love piloting a Suburban through the streets. It's so smooth. The steering is boosted quite heavily, but that's kind of what you want. So the wheel turns nice and smoothly, like fine silk, like a fine silk scarf running through your hands. I like that, especially when it's got a leather wrap like this. And it's really nice for all that. And because it is a big vehicle, but because it's so square and boxy, it's actually fairly easy to know where corners of it are. So like moving it through traffic's not as tough as you might think it would be. There are certain large SUVs that's tougher in, like a Nissan Armada, for example, which I really like, but not as easy to thread through the city as this one. And it really is smooth. In addition to the smooth engine, the ride is fantastic, even with those big 24-inch wheels, which I think look fantastic, by the way. It rides smoothly. The air suspension really helping out with that. And not only does it give you a good ride, that air suspension, it's self-leveling, so you don't feel as much roll through turns. And when you're towing, there isn't as much squat from the rear. All pretty good stuff. You do pay for it. This thing rings in at almost $115,000 in Canada after options. The Suburban starts at 87 grand in Canada, so it's not an inexpensive vehicle, but especially in high country form, it does come well equipped. You do get a lot of content for your money. On the highway now, so now we get a chance to really kind of explore the power now that this has. And even though it weighs whatever it does, I'll put that on the screen here in just a minute, that V8 is deep and throaty, it's powerful, you've got that nice close ratio gearbox there with you as well, so it doesn't feel like a slow, laboring vehicle in any circumstances. And again, that's because it has such a low red line. You don't need to rev it to get the most out of it. It feels great out here. And of course, now is where you feel the air suspension keeping you level and, you know, removing those hard bumps that come up on the highway from time to time and can really jostle you at speed. And I believe the air suspension comes into play when it comes to aero as well, because it might lower a little bit as you gain speed to give you lower drag, have the air flow around the vehicle smoother. So it's nice on the highways also where you get to experience more of the driver aids. The lane keep assist is good here. The blind spot lane keep assist system, unlike so many other vehicles, they don't beep and yell at you when they sense something. They vibrate the driver's seat because your front passenger or your rear passenger or whatever, they don't need to know when there's something in your blind spot and you're about to make a move. They don't need the car telling them that. Only the driver really needs to hear about that. So to have it vibrate through the seat there, that makes sense. It also works when you're in a parking lot and backing out and your rear cross traffic alert is active and it can sense a car coming, it will vibrate the seat to have you stop. So that's pretty good too. And it's a nice way of keeping you safe without being too arduous and annoying for the rest of the occupants, which really is what this vehicle is about. It's really about occupant comfort first and foremost, and entertainment with the rear seat entertainment system and all the screens up here that we have, and it really does that well. Like, you can drive forever in this car, never get tired. Well, you're gonna get tired eventually, we're not truckers here, but drive forever in this thing. You feel that much more refreshed when you arrive after a long drive, whether you're on the highway or driving through town at rush hour or whatever. This one here keeps you coddled and comfortable, and you feel that much kind of fresher when you get out of it. I think it's really good at what it does. The reason why the Suburban's been going on for so long and it hasn't changed much shape-wise, yeah, they've changed the fascia and the wheels and all that kind of stuff over the years, but it's a package and a blueprint that works really, really well, and you don't want to mess too much with that. And for 2025, they sure haven't. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to this quick look at the 2025 Chevrolet Suburban High Country. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. If not, no hard feelings, of course. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan the Wheelman, on Blue Sky at Dan the Wheelman. Of course, keep it locked to the Dan the Wheelman YouTube channel. Always fun new stuff going up here, there, and everywhere. So thanks again for tuning in, folks. This is Dan the Wheelman signing off from the High Country. Go Canucks, go!